10 square feet, still the same restroom and storage layout up there as well. We'll have windows into this classroom, similar to some of the other windows down the hall. We are having to take out, I think, an existing window that is in the teacher resource room. If I got did I get the name of that space correct in that area there? So that's option 2. I'm going to show you some. So these are some of the renderings that we put together for when we've done various projects on the campus. So this is the existing view. If you think about the photo you saw a minute ago. And then this is concept 1. So this is where the wall is flush. And in doing that, we're actually feel like we need to maintain the height of the wall to match the existing. With the brick bands, the height of the wall, the existing light that's actually been installed out there, we may want to tweak the lighting layout just a little bit, not what's been installed, but as a part of the new plan, to kind of match and make it feel like it all was here as a part of the original construction. And then the second option is to bump it out, and in doing so we can lower the height of the wall. And one of the reasons that we feel like this might be a good option is that when you look going south, so that was the north view, if you look going south, you've got an existing bump out classroom area that sits right there that is similar to what we're doing. And so that's concept 1 where it's flush, and concept 2 where it's lower and bumped out. And so it gets us a little more square footage. It was just a couple of different views that we were asked to kind of look at and study to see what our options might be. Either way is fine, and the numbers work for either concept. So now we'll look forward to the science classrooms. So the existing plan just down the hall from where we were just looking, we have a chemistry and a biology space with a storage or a prep type space in between. A few photos of these classroom spaces for chemistry. And then we've got a couple in here for biology. This one always throws me because periodic table and the biology, I always want to put it in chemistry. But I think it's classroom's been used for a couple of different purposes. And so what we're planning to do is reuse the same space and then put new finishes, new flooring, new ceilings. All the ceilings will come down, the grid, tile, lighting. So it'll be essentially when you walk into that space, it'll feel like a brand new space, similar to some of the finishes that we used recently in the recently finished projects at the storm shelter and this hallway down here. There is also some code improvements that we need to take into consideration for some of the gas lines, plumbing lines in the 2 labs. And then also in the prep space, the intent is to bring in a lot more usable storage for the prep areas that will take place in between classes to get set up for the 2 science labs. And then down the hall, just a little further to the south, connecting corridor that connects middle school and high school. So I've drawn that dash line in there to kind of resemble the space, the ceiling that's above. It kind of has that odd shape up in the ceiling. And the reason we've done that is because what we're doing in the office space is going to kind of mimic that angle a little bit. So this is that space as it exists today. And then when we are coming in with an office space, we looked initially at trying to figure out a way to get some restrooms into this space, but not being able to get as many as we thought was needed, we decided let's maybe take a look at this space for use of it as an office. And so we didn't want it to just feel like we stuck a drywall office in the corner. So what we did is we tried to mimic the angle of what's happening on the ceiling, and also utilize some existing or some materials that have been used down the hall. And so if you think about, I didn't bring any pictures, but if you think about down the hall, you've got glass, and then you've got tile on the walls, and you've got some concrete block kind of columns or pilasters in between all of those. So we've taken those same materials and applied them to this wall, put them at an angle. We also want to try to stay away from that ceiling as much as we can so that it doesn't impact not just the architecture, but just the use or the structure that's up above that, the lighting that's in there. This space essentially will have will get HVAC from the adjacent classroom space. It'll have its own lighting, own switching. We'll more than likely put carpet on the floor in there for acoustic purposes. We've talked about possibly putting like a vinyl frosted film on the glass just to create a little bit of privacy, but still let the light in. One of the things that I think is good, having windows, or in this case, interior type windows, we've got a large panel of glass to the east in that space, and so we can let lots of daylight into there, and that can filter into this office space. A couple of different views of the office build out. My hope was that it hopefully looks like it was kind of intended to be that way and not just something that we added on because we needed another 10 by 10 office or something. So we've been working over the last several weeks with Lingo Construction's estimating team. I know you can't read that, but I'll summarize it here in a moment. But behind these are executive summaries. Behind these, there's probably 15, 20 pages of takeoff detail that they had been able to at least glean some of that information from conversations as well as our drawings. So these are preliminary conceptual drawings, but they do a very detailed takeoff of what the drawings that they have. And so that's part of why if we get kicked into this, we'll be immediately starting into engineering and construction documents. So as a summary for the financial numbers, we look at the construction for the restroom and the classroom addition at $867. The classroom, science classrooms renovations at $241, and then the office build out at $43. Design and engineering fees is a similar percentage to what we've used here before. There is going to be a little bit of civil engineering work on this. We'll have structural, we'll have mechanical, electrical, plumbing because of the restrooms. The civil is going to be necessary just a little bit because of what we're doing on the outside of the building. My hope and goal is that we don't have to deal with stormwater detention. But for that extra little, maybe a couple of 100 square feet, I'm hoping we can be okay on our numbers. So I think we're close enough that I think we'll be all right. FF&E, so fixtures, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So we talked about having furniture, newer furniture in that classroom that's just going to be west of the restrooms. I think that is primarily used for, we've got computer lab space in there, as well as what's the other function that happens in that classroom? Is it special education? Yeah, special education. So we talked about changing the furniture and the setup that's in that space and making it a little more contemporary with the way different people use computers these days. And so there'll be some furniture involved in that. And then I always want to try at this level of design where we're at right now to allow for Bethany to have some contingency to allow you to either absorb some changes that might happen over the course of this project. So I typically, in this case, put that at 5%. So right now we've got a total estimated project budget at 1.362. I think that is the last slide. Any questions of me?
Sure, real quick. A question on the design, design number 2,
Mm-hmm.
where it's bumped out. Does that match up with what would be to the south from
Yes, sir.
as it comes out?
Yeah, it lines up both in, I believe, in height and in plane, kind of at the plane of the brick wall.
Great.
I can go back to that if you need me to.
No,
Yeah, that was I think it's like 2 feet, something like that. 2 feet. Yeah. So Dane Grenier's in our office. He's been working on this with me. He's a little bit new to the faces here, I think maybe, but he's been working on this, working with me since January now. So he'll be moving forward on this project.
Good.
You want to see that rendering again? Or
Nope, I'm good.
any other questions of me?
And so the ask tonight is just to approve it, and then we can decide, somebody can decide if it's option A or option B. Is that?
Yeah, we're gonna ask you to approve the 3 projects all together, because we can save some money by doing that, by doing them all at once.
Yes.
I would like to hear your thoughts on the bump out versus the flat tonight when we do that, so that we know the money doesn't change really, isn't that what you said? It's roughly the same.
The estimate that is up here is based on that bump out version. It's a little bit larger classroom by a few square feet, but you're also exchanging lower brick on that version, higher brick. Does that sound right? It's kind of one or the other.
So I think what Troy said and what he's told me in the past is the advantage for the bump out, aside from having another 20 or 30 square feet, whatever that is that if we don't get the exact same brick, when you have that little bump out, it's not as noticeable as if, and we did the same thing on the other one. That's not the exact same brick, but you can't really tell any difference.
Yeah, there's about 4, maybe 5 different bricks that are used on the campus, and we encountered about 4 or 5 of them when we did the connector piece over there. There's lots of different bricks in that area. And so we think that this is actually a fairly common brick, and so we've been able to match this one in the past, but new brick and old brick are always gonna have a little bit of differences. So anytime you can do an offset, it'll help the shadow lines, the lighting, all that stuff helps. Even going up and down in a different way can help kind of disguise that. That if there is a little bit of a difference, and not just in the brick, but also in the mortar. Sometimes that mortar ages and it can change color over time, and so trying to make sure we don't, create that very obvious connection. That's what we try to avoid if we can. I mean, it works either way. I think you'll feel good about it one way or the other. But I think my preference is the bump out if I had a dog in the fight.
Thoughts, anybody?
I agree with you.
Yeah, I like that.
Because it gives visual interest, since the
Yes.
building looks like one big long rectangle.
Yeah.
To have the bump out and have it a little shorter, it kind of adds some visual interest.
This is not a campus I would describe as one big long rectangle. This
No.
campus goes in and out and up and down.
It's just
and
real
angles.
Where
It has some interest for sure.
We do that.
Well,
That's
yeah,
something I would do.
it's just like one long continuous.
Well, it is true here.
Yeah.
There is at the high school, there's a little bit of a bump and
Yeah,
near
it's
the
just
band
kind of a
room,
long.
but it does have a long expanse
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, all the improvements on the middle school have helped. Did I hurt your feelings, Joe? I hope I didn't hurt your
Well,
I hurt your feelings.
I've inherited a lot of this. So.
I want to remind you of something that you probably remember, but I just want to remind you about summer before last. We were talking about science and getting our science, improving our science scores and what getting our kids ready. And one of the things that this group thought would be good is to kind of renovate those science rooms. And so it's taken us a while to get where we were to that point, but we're to that point now, and that's about, it's gonna be just shy of $250,000. It'll look brand new. But that's where that didn't just come out of my head, like some things do.
So Drew, on that renovation for the science room, what is that? I mean, Troy mentioned it would be floors, ceilings.
I
Even
knew
the
you would ask
fixtures?
that.
Yeah.
What else?
Go, Adam. Adam's our science guy,
Yeah.
and he knows exactly what's
Science
going
guy.
in there.
Yeah, we talked with Dane, I mean, we met with Dane over the summer and kind of got a wish list together, and we kind of narrowed it down. But basically, they're replacing all the fixtures in there, and a lot of them don't work anymore. A lot of them are in poor condition.
Like gas and
Gas and
water
water,
don't work,
yes,
so
and-
you're like, it just don't work.
Yeah, and there are some situations with the gas that it comes from the ceiling, so we're fixing that and all that stuff. And
Shut off valves, safety valves. all
yeah,
that.
there's not a good prep sink in there, to wash like glassware or get any labs prepped in there. They're just really small sinks in the middle. So the addition of the prep sink in the back, and then a new eye wash station and emergency shower, because right now they're not really active in there right now. So
And
it's
in
good
this
things to
design, we can
fix.
share, there's a door between to share that
Yes.
one area, right? We don't
Yes.
have that now.
Yeah, the complex, that prep area really hasn't been touched. A lot of those shelves in that prep area came from the old high school, so who knows how old they are. So, just updating that, making it more functional where it's actually a prep area and not just a storage room that catches all of everything. So, it's definitely much needed, especially with, new paint and new ceiling and all that. Yeah.
So just to confirm or clarify, we are gonna have separate sinks and plumb for gas?
Yes.
Or all of that, or however many tables they're gonna have in there. Do we know
Yes.
how many tables we're gonna have?
There's actually, the smaller room actually has more tables in it than
Oh,
the
okay, I
larger room
see.
does. So we're taking a few we're taking one table out in the biology room because it's in that area where that prep sink's gonna be, kinda in that lower left corner down there. And then we're kind of reconfiguring, because, there's not a real good space where like the teacher, here's the teacher desk area. There's not a real defined space, so we're making a couple defined spaces for the teacher demonstrations and stuff like that, so. Yeah, so it'll be really nice when it's done.
And is that new furniture as well in there, or
Now,
reusing parts of it?
they're reusing a good portion of it as far as like the lab tables. Now there's a little bit of dollars in there to kind of clean up the finishes of those, not like a sand and re-stain or anything like that, but just to clean them up. But then the cabinetry that you kind of see over on the far left over there, and on the left side of the plan, and then the cabinetry that's in the prep area, all of that is new. And so we'll be working with Adam and his group to kind of detail out exactly what they need and make sure that that it's set up so they get all the cabinetry and storage that they need, and it's not just a bunch of shelves that are carried over.
Yeah,
So I think
Troy,
it's
it's
a
kind of the
fine-
same color and fit as like we have in the annex right
That's
over
the
there.
plan right now,
that's what- yeah.
is finishes would be
About the same
similar
colors.
to what's in the classroom annex,
Yeah.
storm shelter over there, so.
Troy, you mentioned, you said September 8th, 11th, something like that. What materials take that long, I guess? What are we?
That guy right over there is probably gonna be the one that's gonna take.
So, the process for construction is there are a lot of things right now that run somewhere between 16 and 20 weeks. And so after we bid, we get a low, let's just say a low electrician. Then we gotta bring that to the school board, and the school board's gotta vote to move forward with that contract. Then the electrician does submittals and shop drawings, which is basically confirmation back to the architects and engineers that we're ordering the right materials. So that's a check and balance, and that would be 3 to 4 weeks. And then you add long lead items that are 15 to 20 weeks, and that's what gets you towards the tail end of that window. That's where we're at. So, at this early stage, really a fairly conceptual estimate, and really there's nothing that says we're using XYZ material in this building yet. We're kind of throwing everything together right now based on other projects. And then if you release Troy to continue with design, we'll meet as a team as we always do and say something here that you've selected is really long lead, because there's a lot of materials today that are 26 to 30 weeks. And electrical panels is like a great example. It's hard to get electrical panels for projects right now. And so we would advise, and the team has always worked well together to get a product that's closer and more readily available. But what we have found is the things that used to be commonplace, like you could buy around the corner, are the ones that are really hard to get now. The really hard to get things are still about the same time they used to be, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I would maybe throw out as you consider this is that we priced each project individually. So if we do all three together, there will be some combined savings, but that's not in that number. That's if you were to say, I wanna do, left, middle, right, whatever you wanna do. So as we move forward, there should be some savings by doing all three together if you choose.
The science room is needed, but what we're gonna do with the restrooms is so needed. Like, Mark's been talking to me about this for years. We've got, 550, 60 kids in here. We've got 60, is that what you said, adults? 50 or 60 adults?
60 more.
60 adults for one male, one female bathroom. So those unisex restrooms will be used for that, for all of our,
That's these two that
yeah.
are currently there today, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's these two that are kind of off that resource.
All of our staff, and they're right here. They're centrally located, all these restrooms. So now we've got 10 fixtures, 5 in the girls and 5 in the boys, in addition to what we have over here, and it's all right here in the commons area. It's it really is something that it's not cheap, but it's so necessary. And the high school is, as you guys know, you can set the capacity for all of our schools. But if the kids over in Banner or any other K-8 school in the state say we're going to Bethany, they're coming to Bethany. So Mark gets those in the 9th grade year. So that sometimes throws our numbers out of whack, and that's why we have 130, 40 in a class sometimes. So it is gonna be really good for our staff's gonna love you, and our kids are gonna love you. Do you have any other questions for these guys or me, or?
I'm a fan of concept 2.
Is
So
that the bump out?
The bump out, right?
The bump out,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Anybody know?
I am as well.
No, I think
No, I think
Yeah.
Oh,
So item 4, discussion possible action to approve or not approve work starting on the science room renovations, restrooms, and the addition of an office in the connector hallway.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
yes.
Shasta.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan had something else.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Can I add just an update on
Yeah.
a couple other projects?
Oh,
A
yeah.
little
Yes,
late, but no, I'm just
Go ahead.
So, just a couple things that are outstanding. We were able to modify and brace the wall over fall break that was from previous construction. And we lacked a little bit of trim at the top of the wall, waterproofing masonry. That's gonna happen over Thanksgiving break, so that we can complete that over Thanksgiving break. The lighting is pretty well complete except for rooms that we could not access right now. And we're gonna complete that over Thanksgiving break as well. We'll be sending a final bill on the storm shelter. We'll be reflecting some savings off the total GMP, a little bit of savings of, I think around $40,000 to $50,000. So we're gonna be under budget on that, return that to the school, on that project. I think that's everything. Jacob was trying to train me up to.
Stan, I'd like to stop this because I want to say in front of all everybody, how much I appreciate. They have been our remember we had this big problem with a big water damage up in front of the admin, and he's building a 10-story building downtown, and they come and take care of us. Then we have this wall that's gonna fall down, and he says, oh, no worry. And you train your son up right, because he always answers the phone, which is shocking to me every time he answers the phone. And he's always like, yeah, we can do that, no matter how small it is. And I asked him about it one time, and he said, we're about relationships with our customers. We're gonna do what? We've got a relationship with Bethany Public Schools, and and they certainly do. Troy's been great also, but we haven't had to call him on many emergencies. I have on these guys. So thank you, and thank your son when you see him.
I
Yes.
agree.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
Stan.
coming tonight. I mean, like you said, you have big buildings and things that you do, and you take care of us, so we're grateful. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, item 5, consent agenda. Anybody have any changes on the minutes from the previous one? We'll move on to the budget and the financial.
Okay, so your budget starts on page 4. So like my email said, I made 2 changes to the budget that was presented last month due to all of the construction projects. So we just kind of went through the building fund, and anything that could be paid out of general fund we moved. And so you'll see those on the encumbrance list tonight for approval. So those totaled $102,236. So we went ahead and I increased the expenditures in that on page 7, that 2600 function category, by 200,000. So that allowed us to move the 2 POs that were in building fund, plus do the POs for the gravel, for the parking lot, as well as the fence over there. And then that leaves us still about 70,000. Just in case some other things come up that we can do out of general fund and we don't have to use building fund money for. So just trying to save as much of the building fund for the construction projects that we have to use that money for. So that changed, and then on page 9, on the building fund budget, you'll see that I went ahead and added almost all of the total revenue into expenditures to just leave us a $5,522 expected at the end. Now, this revenue does not reflect any of the Red Bud money that we're going to get this year. They've kind of been holding back when we're going to get it. We're thinking it may not be till closer to the end of the fiscal year, so that's why I didn't include anything, because I didn't want to count on it and it not come in. So, but we could always change this later on if we get that and want to use it for the construction as well. And then the rest is the same. Questions about any of that? Okay, starting on page 12 is the activity fund summary. And then pages 13 through 18 are just all of the individual activity fund accounts and their balances. And then on page 19 starts the general fund revenue. So district taxes were down $3,463. Interest were up $3,035. Those next three, reimbursement, other local, and general fund refund, we are up $10,665. And we had some cheer mats that were stored in the gym that were kind of a late find that they had been damaged by the flood. And so we received a check in October to replace those, so was $7,871. So that's why that number is up as much as it is. Child nutrition is up $45,059, so that gives our total district source $55,296. Intermediate county formula is up $3,295. Mortgage tax is up $487. So our total intermediate is up $3,783. And then under the state categories, gross production is up $3,877. Motor vehicle is up $71,750. School land is up $4,500. Vehicle stamp is up $204. Foundation and incentive is up $121,782. The flexible benefit allowance is up $12,090. Textbooks are down $121,422. And again, that's just because they're splitting it out each month versus the one payment we got at the beginning of the year last year. Family and consumer sciences is the same as last year, so total state is down $50,690, but that's that textbook money. Page 20 is the federal. All of those, the three in the collection category are all the same as last month. We haven't had any new collections. But our total federal collections is up $800,030 from where it was last year, bringing our grand total revenue up $808,419 from last year. Questions about any of that? Okay, starting on page 21 are the encumbrances for board approval from the general fund. So I'll point out PO 443. And PO 452.
Yeah, it's on my list.
So we got in a bind with Ross, who we have historically used for all of our bus inspections and repairs this year, and they just couldn't get them done for us. And so you guys approved a blanket PO at the beginning of the year for $40,000 to Ross Transportation. I have reduced that down to $20,000, and you'll see the $10,000 is Ronald Rammer, which he is in Dover, but he can get us in super fast if we're in a bind for repairs or inspections. So he did some for us, and then Midwest Bus Sales in El Reno also helped us out and got some of them in and taken care of. So
Do we have to take the buses to them, or do they come to us?
You take them to them.
Okay,
yeah.
so there's a bit of expense. There's some expense there going to Dover versus what Ross is here in the city.
Yes.
Yeah.
The problem was, we had buses at Ross all summer that weren't touched, and put us in a significant bind when we found out we had buses that we couldn't use because they didn't have inspection. So we started calling around trying to find somebody that would do it. Our RAO gave us the name of the guy in Dover, and then I called the guy in Midwest City, or Midwest Bus out in El Reno. Super nice guy.
Who tracks all that, the bus inspections and all that? Who's?
Jennifer does now.
Good job, Jennifer.
Yes, out of that task on.
So that one kind of like.
It won't
Yes,
happen again.
it won't happen again, no. And really both of the guys are, awesome to work with. RJ is the Ronald, his wife works at Dover Schools, and so he's very school oriented, he understands it, and he was like, I get it, get him out here and I will drop everything else and do your buses. Like, his customers know buses, so if we're in a bind and we need something fast, he's kind of the one, even though it costs a little bit more, cause Midwest, you know, still does a lot of other business too.
So we just reallocated
So,
from Ross.
We just moved money, yes.
So this isn't money that's been spent yet, it's just been allocated in case we need it, or in case we need that amount.
So they're invoicing us right now,
Okay.
so some of it will be spent already, yeah. Okay, questions on any of the others on that page?
Yeah, on 451, kind of explain how is that broken down for the ODSS conference? Is that $7,100? Is that based on the number of people that attend? You know, is it amount per person that attends? How does that? Is that what that is? That's it.
We were able to take pretty much everyone
Yeah.
throughout special services.
It's a great crew out there, I know.
It was a good group.
Yeah.
And that's tied into
The
Fund
IEPs.
613, is that
Mhm.
correct? Yes. So, those are federal funds, and we're definitely fortunate to be able to take a whole team, and it was great, as you saw.
Mhm.
Great speakers and great
Yeah,
information.
Thank you.
That was this past Saturday.
No, a
No.
couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Okay, so on page 22, I'll just kind of highlight 479 was one that got moved from building fund, as well as 484. And then 480 and 482 were the new ones that we were going to do out of building fund, but we decided to do out of general. And then 483 are the cheer mats that we received the money for to replace those.
Must be gold plated.
Can 483, can that be included with the insurance claim that we had, or is it too late
Yes.
on that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay,
they've
great.
actually already, he had me send him the quote and the PO, and we already have the check.
Great.
So those have been ordered and we're just waiting to get them in. Yes. Questions about any others?
So it looks like for laptops and iPads and stuff, we're having to source everywhere. It looks like that. I mean, a little bit of everywhere staples.
Yes, yeah, Jennifer and I work together pretty well on that to find deals, and, you know, sometimes you're at the mercy, like what, Mr. Lingo was saying, you're at the mercy of who can get you the stuff the quickest, and most of them can, get you some good stuff pretty quick.
Okay, but page 23 is just the total for all of those. Page 24 is the function summary for general fund. That appropriated column total is the estimate of needs amount, and we are currently between encumbered and spent at 81.8% of that. Last year we were at 80.43%, so we are up 1.37% from last year. Page 25 is the building fund, and that appropriated column is also the estimate of needs. So you can see our encumbered amount went down from what it was last month, and that's where we're sitting right now. Page 26 is an encumbrance from the bond fund to Stephen McDonald for their professional services, and that will be for the meeting on the 15th for the sale of bonds. That will be what they invoice us for their part of that service. Page 27 is the function summary for the bond fund. The appropriated column is the same as last month. That's the balance in it, and then that encumbered amount is the one to Stephen McDonald. Those are the only changes. Page 28 is the function summary for the sinking fund. We deposited $1,594 in taxes, and so that appropriated column reflects that amount. And that's it. Page 29 through 31 are some activity fund fundraiser requests from football, boys basketball, and cross country.
Move to approve item 5, A through E.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstead.
Yes.
Peck.
Yes. Item 6, staff reports. School improvement.
Oh no, Adam, he brought his binder.
It's gonna take a while.
Uh-oh.
Yes, yeah.
Big
How long does
binder.
it take?
I told him that.
Alright, so the next 30 minutes, I'm gonna talk to you about I'm gonna talk really fast so that you guys can ask questions if you have them. So here you can see our demographics. I believe these demographics will be pretty consistent with previous years, but also probably consistent with middle school and high school as well. So we'll give you a chance to look at those real quick. Our attendance rate actually went up 1% from this time last year to this time this year. That's really exciting, but there's some other things that we're going to be doing that I'll talk to you guys about that we'd like to continue improving that with our communication with parents. So some of the changes at the elementary school that have been some of the more significant changes, math tracks to reflex math. Math tracks was a program we had for 20 plus years, and basically kids were trying to achieve a goal of reaching certain levels. They either did or they didn't. They got a bronze, silver, or gold medal if they reached 4, 5, or 6 levels. If they didn't get a medal. And that was pretty much it. It did not tell us what they were actually accomplishing as far as math fact fluency. So the kids who didn't get a medal, we didn't know how far they did get. Even the kids who got a medal, we just knew they passed those tests. The data was not great for telling us how well do our students do with math fact fluency. So we switched to something called reflex math. I could go into a lot of details about that, but I don't have time, so I'm gonna just give you some facts that we've had just from the first quarter. So this actually tracks the percentage of math fact fluency within our students. So we started the year on the first assessment at 17% of math fact fluency, which is not very high, which I think shows there was a problem, there was an issue. After the first quarter, we're up to 44.4%. We also found that if a student did math, reflex math for 1 day, they gained about 3 facts on average. 2 days, it doubled. 3 days, it doubled again. So it went from 3 facts up to 12 facts. So it's showing that when our students are using this program, it is helping them gain that math fact fluency. And it's really, really exciting to think if they continue that progress, what they'll be able to do in future years in math. Earl Harris Happenings is a newsletter that we started this year. One of the things that we've always talked about is it's awesome when we get to go in the classroom as principals and see all these cool things. We've done some things like instructional rounds where teachers go into each other's classroom, but it's like 1 day that we're able to block out to do that. So Earl Harris Happenings is a newsletter where we take pictures and examples of the things that we see that we just go in and say, man, this is awesome. And we share that with all the teachers so they see those ideas, they can implement some of those ideas. And so that's a monthly newsletter we started. Behavior RTI is something that we have been doing, but we're formalizing that process. So right now we have things we do when students are struggling with behavior issues. This is, we're working towards a much more formal process, so teachers know exactly where a student is in that process, who the next point of contact would be, and things like that. Attendance monitoring letters. After COVID, you know, we've noticed a significant trend with a difference of opinion on attendance. Both calling in absences as opposed to just, you know, they missed, we didn't get a phone call. So we are going back to much greater attendance monitoring and then sending communication to parents to let them know, hey, we didn't get a call, what's going on with this particular absence. And it's showing significant improvements. We had, the first time we did it was the beginning of October, and we had to send 24 letters out for students who had 3 or 5 days at least of unexcused absences. The next time we did it, a week later, it was down to 18, a week later, 13, and then the 1st of November, we only had to send 3 letters out. So I think that message is getting across that we understand kids get sick and we want them to be home if they are, but communicate with us and just let us know, you know, what the reason for their absence. And I think it's also communicating to parents the importance of them trying to be here when they can, which also was something that just kind of fell a little bit more casual amongst the parents and the kids. Special education changes. I don't want to walk on Dr. Clinton's report, so I'll go very briefly, but there have been some significant changes that we've made, but I think more so philosophical changes. What our special education teachers do to support our students. In the past, it was partially helping students complete work and missing papers and things like that. We're trying to get away from that a little bit to work more on skills that will benefit them beyond that, getting that grade for that one assignment. And so that's been a big shift, but it's been a great shift, and we've been able to see a lot of neat things within our special education program with that shift taking place. And then focused on test rigor and strategies. I'll talk a lot more about this through the rest of the presentation, but the picture you see here is Mrs. Lawson, 3rd grade teacher, and she's wearing a shirt that says cubes, circle, underline, box, eliminate, solve. The picture right next to it is in a 4th grade class, and it says cubes, and if you went into a 5th grade class, you would see the exact same thing on the wall. So all 3 grade levels are utilizing a similar strategy. In this case, cubes, that's one example, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about why that is. So some ways we build relationship and community building. The fire wagon is something that continues to be awesome. I talked to the firefighters, and they don't get to do this a whole lot, but you'll see here a student is climbing out a window. They've got like a smoke machine in there, and they're teaching the kids how to safely exit the building. And that's what a lot of people think about when they think of the fire wagon. There's actually a whole section on chemical safety as well. So they take them into a kitchen. They have a fake fireplace, and they show them, don't leave your stuffed animals next to the fireplace. So there's a lot more to it than just the fun picture, which is climbing out the window. But we appreciate our Bethany firefighters for providing that for us. The Village, again, a great program we have going. The picture in the middle there is actually, we had Superhero Day, and an example of what the Village does for kids is they knew not everyone was going to have superhero stuff, and they want every kid to be able to participate. So you can't see which student in that picture was assisted through the Village, but some of those students were provided with superhero masks and superhero capes so that when they got to school, they were able to dress up just like everybody else. And that's just a small example of how the Village looks after kids to make sure that they feel just like everybody else and are supported in that way. PTO parents, we've had a big growth in the number of parents involved in our PTO. 75 to 100 volunteers, and that's today. Just shows that we're trying to expand from a few parents doing a lot of things to a lot of parents doing few things, although they might question that too. They do a lot of things still, so, but we've really expanded how many volunteers we have. Another example of that is our Camp Classroom parents. So we had 30 parents who paid to be counselors to go to camp, take off work 3 days to go do that. But beyond that, a big jump this year was our visitors. So we had 30 to 40 visitors go to camp with us. So on one day we have over 100 kids, about 110 kids at camp, and on one day we have 70 parents there with us, which again is something we're really trying to re-engage our parents with us to let them know we're glad you're here, we want you here, come join us in all these things. So some success stories we've had. Our Jogathon amazingly raised $55,000. That got me a mega pie to the face, which is a kiddie pool filled with pie stuffing, basically to my whole body. Mrs. Chavez got the same treatment. You can see our foam party in that picture as a result of that, but just amazing fundraising there. That's the most we've ever raised. Again, great parent engagement we're seeing. Assessment, so the binder, everyone's talking about the binder. You might look at this and you might think, these are all the assessments of the elementary school that we've done. The truth is, this is one second grade class through the first quarter. These are their assessments. The reason I show you that is we are wanting to know everything we can know about kids, and the only way we can do that is if we assess each kid individually by sitting down with them one-on-one and giving them multiple assessments over different things. So this binder is one teacher's 21 kids worth of assessments, which to parents should say, we know your child and we are going to help your child. And this is specifically how we're going to be able to do that. Professional development, our teachers are on fire. Letters training, Excel math is 4th and 5th grade, and Excel ELA is 4th and 5th grade. There's one 3rd grade teacher in math as well. But we have probably over half of our staff at this point, through all those things, are participating in some long-term, rigorous professional development. It's not a one-time go, hey, great, go back. They have homework assignments, they have research they have to do. It is intense, and very proud of our teachers for participating in that. It is very time consuming. Counseling newsletter, something our counselors have started this year. It helps connect what we're teaching the kids in class on regulation techniques and just any type of advice that they know what we're talking about, so they can use the same language at home with their kids as well. Our state assessment scores in 3rd grade, 55%. So the purple is this past year, the green is the year prior, the blue is this past year's state average. So 55% was 54% in ELA last year, and then 29% state average. In math, we went up a bit. We're at 63% this year, 54% last year, 33% state average. In 4th grade, 40%, and you can see that's down from last year, was 49%. State average is at 23%. The math, 37%, down 2% from 39%. State average is 33%. 5th grade, down a couple percent, 58% compared to 60%. 27% state average. 72% is significantly up, 16% from the year prior. At 56%, and then the state average is 26%. And then 5th grade, 78% this year, up a little bit from 74%, 38% is the state average. So a review of our goals last year, one of our big goals was with foundations integrity, and we used a survey to assess teachers' comfort level and their idea or understanding of how effective it was in their classroom, and we had overwhelming results. Teachers loved it. They loved what it brought to the table. We're loving what we're seeing with it, and so we feel really good about foundations and integrity as it relates to our phonics and phonemic awareness curriculum. The other goal was to increase math scores by 10% from the prior year. 3rd grade almost got there at 9%. 4th grade did not get there, decreased 2%, and then 5th grade bumped way up 16%. So we had some success there, and then some areas of concern as well. So our goal this year, one thing you'll notice, and this has been a trend for several years, is that when you look at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, our scores tend to go up and down and up. They're not very balanced across the board, yet we are working with a very similar group of students every single year. We also see that the same group of students who in one year were scoring lower went way up. For example, 4th grade to 5th grade this year, you saw this 72%, well the year prior they were 39%. Now what I believe that tells us, and we believe that tells us, is that those students were better than 39%. There's no way they could have gone from 39 to 72 in just 1 year. What we believe is that the way we were assessing them in that grade was not preparing them for the state test. Another thing that supports that is our benchmark data. 4th grade math had the highest benchmark data at the end of the year, which meant on the STAR, they were scoring as well as everybody. But when it got to the state assessment, for whatever reason, and that's what we're challenged to figure out, is they were not performing well on that test. And the next year they're performing well. So we've sat down and we have tried to think of ways to fix that problem, how to balance out the scores. So the first goal we have for next year is to balance our scores within 20% of each other across all grade levels. Between 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we don't want to see this big gap. We want to work together utilizing strategies that we know work in 5th grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, put those together so that we're using the same strategies, so our scores, so our students are set up for success the same. Take what we know works, what got us to 72% in 5th grade, utilize those in 3rd grade and 4th grade as well, and whatever's working in the other grades the same way up. So we want to try to balance those scores out so we don't have large peaks and valleys. And then the other goal we want to achieve is that we want all of our scores, regardless of the grade level, to be 30% above the state average. The reason we wrote it this way is because sometimes the test changes every year, grade to grade. So it's hard to just say a certain percent. You can do it that way for sure, but sometimes if the state changes in one grade level or they change something about it, it's hard to measure, did we do better or did the score just come down for everyone? So by doing it with the state average, it allows us to see what everyone did across the state. If everybody's scores went down, ours may come down too, but they should still be significantly, we would expect our scores to be significantly higher than everyone else across the state, by at least 30%. And so that's why we've written the goals that we have in this way. And again, our goal is to strategically cubes, that you saw the picture on Mrs. Lawson's shirt. That is one of the strategies that we talked about at the beginning of the year. If we all use this and consistently, our students will benefit that across all the grades. And then we were able to isolate some variables of things that we can see work or don't work, and then we change maybe what is not working. Any questions? Talk really fast.
Real quick, please. When you set the goal at 30%, how did we come up with 30% versus 31 or 32 or
Yep.
29? Just kind of curious.
So we kind of looked at our scores over the last few years, and if you look back, so let's take this grade for example. So in 5th grade, you'll notice a lot of our scores are there, but we've also had some transition in that grade too. And so we were looking at the top scores, like 5th grade scores, and some of those grades were already there. But if you go into 4th grade, we are 17% and then 4% above, but there's a significant difference between those. So we want to have room for growth in some grades, while also maintaining. We've got a new teacher in 5th grade math this year, her first year with us. We would hope that that number would stay the same, but we're also making some changes within that department that could affect that number also. And if you go to 3rd grade, you'll see we're right about 30%, just short of it in ELA, right at it in 5th grade. And again, our goal is that we'll see the same thing as we go grade to grade. So we felt like 30% is high for 4th grade, but attainable, and should be attainable in 3rd grade and 5th grade as long as we maintain what we're doing. So if we maintain what we're doing there, try to improve from 5th grade to the other grades, that will hopefully bring up 3rd grade to within that 30%, which is really what we're trying to do to balance those scores out across the board. Other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Good, sir.
You're up.
Alright, now we're gonna look at the middle school. I don't know that it's fair for my first time to have to follow that from Dr. Bellows. They told us 5 to 10 minutes, and for the record, that was 17.
Sorry.
We all had the overs anyway, Frank.
Yeah, I think I did too.
Okay, so here are our demographics. Going from we went to 390 students this year. We were at 374, I believe, before that. So we raised our number in the middle school. There's our look at our students. Our attendance rate, proud of this, it has gone up from 89.6 at this time last year to this year it's 96.94, and so we've done a few things to help with that number, so I'll talk about that here in just a minute. Okay, a few changes at the middle school. One of them, this year the middle school is going to work to implement the PLC at work. We were able to go to this in Utah a few weeks ago. We had great information that we were able to bring back. 5 of us went, and we're very excited about bringing this back. And so professional learning communities, we're going to put our time and efforts into that. It's going to be a step-by-step process. It's going to take us a couple of years to get this going. One thing that we're working on right now with our professional learning communities is every grade level or every vertical team they're meeting, all of our reading teachers, all of our math teachers are meeting, and they're coming up with their essential standards. So the standards that we are going to focus the most on, which ones do the students have to know? So we're going to do a have to know and a nice to know. those things, so that when you look at reading some of the standards, the different topics they have is like 128 things, and for a teacher to have to cover that many things is just overwhelming. So we're trying to break it down, focus on this, and then work together as a team to say, how are you going to teach that in 6th grade so that I can build on that in 7th grade and then into 8th grade. So it's brought a lot of conversations into play, and it's been a great step in the process. So that's one thing that we're working on right now, is just getting those standards made, and then we'll be taking that in to work with the kids, and then we can, focus on exactly individual students, what they need. So that conference was amazing, and I'm really excited to get that going with our middle school. We've changed our advisory time to Bronco time. Last year they did this 2 days a week. We've upped it to 4 days a week, and it's 30 minutes of Bronco time where they're in with a certain class and with one teacher. It's working on building relationships, working on work that they need to get finished, and getting some tutoring from teachers. We've opened it up that they can go to anyone in their grade level, so that they can, if they're needing extra help in math, they can go to the math teacher during that time. If they need help in reading, they can go to the reading teacher at that time. So it's kind of a revolving door of who goes where. They don't just have to stay in that classroom. What we're going to look to do in the future is use our RTI data, and then get the individual needs of every student, and then be able to pull those students and say, I need these students, name a group of 7 of them, to come out and meet with me during your RTI time, Bronco time, to work on this specific standards. So to know our kids so well that we can pull them in a small group and help them with their specific needs is where we're planning on going with that time. The middle school, this is what's helped with our attendance, has reinstated an attendance policy and made changes to coincide with the high school. So it's been great. Every day during Bronco time, one of the things they have to do, they have to check their grades and they have to check their attendance. And we have students coming in all the time, and it's holding them accountable. Well, I was counted tardy in this class because I had to stay late and I couldn't find my pencil, and we're like, you have to be accountable for what you did. And well, why am I absent for this day whenever I got back at a certain time? And so the kids seeing that this is affecting them, they're wanting to make sure that they're not getting cheated in any way. And so I've really enjoyed the conversations that I've had with kids as to knowing why they were counted absent versus tardy, and having to be there for a certain number of minutes before that. So this is also something that's really helped, and our attendance is going up. Relationship building, things that we were really working on. Bronco time is one way that we can build those relationships. With the elementary, they're doing the village program. We are working on implementing that too. I'm working with Mrs. Bernhard with different things. We actually have 2 teachers that have already started, and they have some kids that they're working with. We're able to, we had a parent that lost their job, and the mom was really upset. Things were just going downhill at home. We were able to get them a Crest gift card and get them, some hope, and just, it made her day, and she cried. And so just things like that, and building those relationships with people and their families has been great. We're having a snowball dance in December, so the kids are looking forward to that, something fun. The high school's had some fun things going on, elementary did, so now we finally have something to look forward to as well. Bronco games, we finished those up this last week, had a lot of fun with that, a lot of competitive kids in the middle school, and teachers too. So that was my first time experiencing that, and so it was a fun time. Purple tickets for positive behavior. Kids are rotating through the office all day long, putting in purple tickets, things that they're doing well. And it's surprising the kids that need those purple tickets and bring those in and are really proud of what they've done. And, so that it's positive and it's good for them. Teachers' Pets is something that just started. We have a group of parents that wanted to start and do something outside of PTO. And so they brought a popcorn bar up for the teachers. They've brought breakfast for the teachers. So just things to make the teachers feel valued. And so that's something they're working on. They've also done a thankful board, and the kids have put leaves on a board saying what they're thankful for with our teachers and what they appreciate about them. And I see teachers walk by there and just kind of be looking at that every now and then. And so I know that it makes their day as well. Pep assemblies, we've had one pep assembly. Kids love it. I'm not sure that the teachers love it. It's very loud, and they love to show their spirit. So if it's good for them, we'll do it. Success stories. We have a few of these. Mrs. Yeagley talks about Reading Plus. This is a program that we put in that increases the rigor and has students working at their own individual pace. I said, just pull me 3 random students. She pulled them up, and we've had one that had grown 0.7, so a little over half of a year growth in the time that we've been here now. One student has grown 1.4 years in just the amount of time that they've been doing it. And so we've looked at all of this data, and the students, they really dread doing their reading pluses. They have a day that they have to work on those, but the results are outstanding. And so, you know, it's just something that we want to continue to encourage, because it really is a successful program. Mrs. Wisniewski said that her tables that she got to work with math, it's just one of those things that collaboration comes naturally with the students. They write on their desk, they erase it, they work together, and they become teachers themselves. Mr. Lex says that he's enjoyed this more frequent outside labs. This is one of them that Mrs. Esco went out and took pictures of, and they really do enjoy those fun lessons. Okay, our test scores from last year. So the reading is in blue, the math is in red. So these are our scores: 6th grade, 38% and 51% in reading. In 7th grade, 30% were passing, and then 51 in math, so 51 across the board in 6th and 7th. And then 8th grade, 52% passing, 56 in math, and then 88% passed in science. Looking at them individually, from 2022, this year's scores in purple, the green score is the state, and then the blue is from the year before. So we grew from one year to the next 1 point in 6th grade ELA. In math, we went up as well from last year, and then quite a significant gain over the state in 6th grade math. 7th grade, we had 30% passing in ELA, 21 is the state, and then 32, so we dropped down a couple points in that. In math, scores looked good, 51% passed, 24 was the state, and then we went down 3 points from the time before. Now, 8th grade scores, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because the teachers, we've kind of been looking at all of this. We were talking about site improvement and what we needed to improve on. We found a website, it's called oklahomawatch.org, and it kind of compares our scores to everybody else around the state, 531 other school districts in the state. And so when you looked at 8th grade in particular, I can tell you that we had the #1 score in the state in science with our 88%, up 58 points from the state last year, so we grew 22 points in that. In math, we grew 11 points. I believe we were 5th in the state for that, and then we were 9th in the state in our ELA. So 8th grade did a great job. Their scores kind of show that there. Our SMART goals, these were from the year before. It said every student will achieve a year's growth in reading proficiency based on Reading Plus or Score Advanced and Proficient. So when we went back and found all the data to do this, 90% of our students were able to obtain that goal. The second goal from last year was every student will achieve a year's growth in math from the STAR benchmark or Score Advanced or Proficient, and 93% of the students were able to do that. Our SMART goals for this year. We want to increase our math scores by 5%. We were in the 50s. I know that the teachers were like, 50 doesn't sound like a great score, but when you compare that to our state scores and how we did, that looked very good. So we asked for a 5% increase. So the teachers from 7th grade, their hope is to, the 8th grade teachers want to increase their score by 5. We're going to do that by implementing progress learning, which is an in-depth, it increases the depth of knowledge for all the students and has more rigor in it. The second goal is increase reading scores this year by 10%. Those were a little bit lower than we would like, so we want to bump those up to 10%. Identifying our essential standards, implementing the greater use of Reading Plus to target specific skills for individual students.
Well, I have just a question. When do you all do the bunker punch? When is that built in your day?
It is built in, it's between our 4th and 5th hour. And so what we did was we shrunk down our passing period. So now we went from 5 minutes down to 2 minutes. And so they have to get there, and they can. At the beginning, they're like, there's no way, we had a lot of tardies, and now, amazingly, they can. They don't just hang out and visit.
That's a pretty, useful way of finding time.
Yeah. Yep. So far, it's worked well.
Real quick question,
Okay.
on your goals this year, I noticed that the goals are based on the state test.
Yes.
Versus last year, we had multiple things that whether it be the STAR test or whether it be state testing. Was there a reason to say, hey, we want to see, this is what's gonna get posted, so we want that, or what was it?
Yeah, we talked about that, and we talked about the rigor of the test. The test is, getting more rigorous. The questions are depth of knowledge is deeper, and so we want to be there. We want to be with that and be able to know our information at a deeper level. And so that's why we went ahead and we kind of stepped out and said we want to use that. So teachers were in on the conversation of that, and they felt better with that. We feel like we are able to prepare the kids at the end of the year, pump them up for that, and kind of really trying to hit home that we want to do well on this, and we're focusing on it.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that, I think it's wise.
Yeah.
Okay, high school. Our demographics are very similar, maybe a little bit different. One of the things I know that for this year, we kind of, increased in Hispanic by, I think, 3%, and we kind of reduced a little bit in our Black community. But very similar to what you see in the elementary and the the middle school. Our attendance rate, this was our last year, full year attendance rate, 94%. If I were to run it, I didn't make a graph, but if I were to run it right now, it would be right between 96 and 97, up to like November, where we're at here. The most important thing we can do is hire good people, and people that are passionate and that love working with kids. And I call our new 5 hires the Fab 5, and we hit it out of the park. That's Dan Allen. It's Matt McClintock, that is Zach Colson, Amy Ross, and Brett Cannon. And you talk about a group of people coming in and already making an impact, not only with our kids, but with our parents and with our community. We've seen that right off the bat with these guys, so it's been very impressive. And, this obviously, I would say this was not taken on Halloween, because that would be an interesting dress, but it was taken on Halloween. But if you guys can read that email, Matt, he came to us from another district. So a lot of times you can get a lot of experience, and seeing the difference in the Bethany culture and where some of these teachers come from. Can you guys read that, or do we read it out to you?
Go ahead.
Okay. It just says, it was an email that he sent literally right after first of school. And he said, Mark, I just want to brag on my colleagues. I've never been in a place with so many people with such an amazing and positive disposition about teaching and loving those they teach. Students look so happy in school. They run up to past teachers and they don't even have to, but they give hugs or tell them about their summer. This is a miraculous place. Thank you for trusting me to be a part of it. This is home. So, the culture that's been created, it's special. So we were glad to get those 5, and I'm excited to see how they will continue to impact us. Relationship building, I always like, you guys, I think you've all had kids come through the first day of school with, all of our kids out. Student council kind of wrangles this, but just entering and welcoming those new freshmen into the high school environment. So it's a lot of fun, and I think all of our kids enjoy that. We still have our brick and mortar that happens every Wednesday, and this is just a variety of some of the relationship building that we get to do throughout the building with different teachers and some of the mortars that have been offered.
Real quick, you guys remember what brick and mortar is? Everybody? Okay.
So yeah, it's just that half schedule where, if you need to go get academic tutoring or remediation, anything, that would be one. And you also have the relationship piece where you can go and kids get to choose, which part, which group they want to be a part of every Wednesday. Success stories, we already had our college career fair, so that's just a picture. That really impacted all of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors. We had 28 tables. There were 19 universities that were there. Career Tech, 3 military branches, and then 6 career tables. So that was an impressive day. Our kids got to see a lot of different things and get a lot of great information from different groups. Success interactive classroom. I don't know if you remember our math teachers doing a book study and researching and finding out that they wanted to increase the surface area with their whiteboards in their classroom. So we've done that. And if I were to ask you what kind of class do you think this is, you'd probably pick anything but math. But this is a math class, and they're utilizing that space. All students are being able to work and solve problems with the square footage around all the whiteboard in the room. So very interactive, and it's going great. Back to basics. One of the things, kind of like Ruben and also Kylie hit on, we kind of picked up some bad habits, I think, from COVID. Some of those were attendance related. Some of those were work ethic related. The administrative team got a chance to go and listen to Rick Rigsby talk this summer at the leadership conference. And one of the things that he talked about was, this younger generation, with our generation, there's always been a sense of basic common sense or logic that has kind of been passed down. That's kind of just, been natural. But sometimes I think there's gaps in some of this younger generation, just some of that basic common sense that is not maybe being passed down, or there's some blocks. So every one of our teachers, I encourage them to come up with a purple sheet, and they've all got these. This was the one that's in my office. But just looking at some of the habits that we, picked up through COVID, tough times never last, tough people do. Don't wish it was easier, commit to working harder. And take time to see other people's perspective. So each one of our teachers has some sort of, it has nothing to do with their curriculum area, it has nothing to do with their teaching area, but it's just something that means something to them that they're trying to pass on to their kids. And then of course you see these. One of the things that we learned, if kids, and a lot of it just like adults, I can be the same way, if they can touch their phone, they cannot help but to utilize their phone. So we've got these in every single classroom, and it's not that we're forcing kids to put them up there, but the thing is, your phone is up. If it's not in a number, it's in your backpack, so it can't be touched. If it's on your desk, you see it. You know what I'm talking about. They will not be able to refrain from using that phone. So there's just some things we can impact work ethic wise and academic wise just by strengthening our focus. So we're seeing that as well. Looking at some of the data, our ACT, we were able to raise our ACT over half a point, almost 0.7. So the composite, 20.47 up from 19.78. You can see that every area we increased, math, science, English, and reading. So red bars is Bethany and this year, and then 2021 from last year. We didn't get a state ACT average last year. We had run that, but really the last data that they had released for that April test score was like 2019. So some of that data hasn't come through. But that's our score from last year. I just put these on separate, so the slide wouldn't be so busy. But our ELA, which comes from the ACT, there is a state average on that. So advanced proficient, we were at 66.3% advanced proficient, compared to state average of 38%. The science test, one of our goals last year, if you remember, we were going to raise our score 10%, and we did. So we raised it. We're at 37% advanced proficient, up from 25 state average. Math, 31%. The state average was 19. And then our history did really well. There's no state comparison data, but 77.5% of our kids tested on the history test in advanced or proficient. And if you remember our goals last year, we were able to meet all 3 of those goals. We did provide those practice tests. The science team met their goal, moved from 27 to 37. And then, you know, we wanted to achieve a 20.4, and our goal was 20.3, and we achieved a 20.4. Then our SMART goals for this year, basically English, history, and science. We're going to look for a 3% increase in advanced proficient scores. And then when you look at math, one of the things that they really wanted to focus on is comparing apples to apples. So they're going to use their sophomore pre-AC data, which those kids had a 17, and they want to use that same testing cohort group, and they want those kids to raise, they want to get them to a 19.25. Any questions?
Quick question, Mark. So your SMART goal in 21-22, there was a composite score goal, correct?
Yes.
But for this year, you're just focusing in on math?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like Kaizen we talked about with, you know, the minor small improvements. We're focusing on everything. I mean, for our goals this year.
Right, I'm sorry. I see all of them. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the way that they pull those scores, I think if we work in those little things, that will take care of itself, and we'll see an increase in that composite as well. But you know, you're talking about ours for this. So we've got English, we've got history, we've got science, and math. So we have a.
It's just the other 3 are comparing advanced proficient maths using their total score.
Right, that's right. Yeah. They wanted to use that pre-AC data as opposed to just what's pulled from the ACT.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to see how far the students moved.
Yeah. You got to realize. I mean, I was working on this. You know, it's been probably 2 months, and trying to get the math department, because they analyzed everything. So they're pulling, and they were wanting to make sure they were comparing apples to apples, and you can understand. I mean, Ms. Tackett, she's comparing the same test takers, right? Whereas everything else, we're comparing this year's seniors, which is the test data we have, versus this year's juniors. So they're wanting to move with the same group from a 17 to a 19.25 from pre-ACT data. I was just glad I finally got them to settle in on something.
Today.
Right.
And you guys probably saw the ACT and the national news about ACT scores all going down this year, right? I think the average was 19.8, and ours went up. And that's a testament to what our teachers are doing in these classrooms on a year when it made national headlines, 30-year low. I just looked it up to be sure that I was right. 30-year low on average ACT score, and we go up. Says, all right, we're doing the right stuff. We're going to continue to do better. We'll never arrive. We will, you know, that's why we have goals, you know, 3% increase all the way. That's good. And I would not want to tangle with Ms. Tackett on any of her goals. Whatever she wants is fine.
I'd like to see some improvement in science for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we were able to raise that this last year, and you know, looking at that, and you know, we're looking at those. You're talking about, you know, 5 kids trying to bump up, and you're trying to get it from that, you know, basic group into the proficient or proficient into advanced. So that's really what we're working at doing.
We have 2 new teachers in science this year.
I know.
That we think are outstanding, and we'll see how that translates.
Yeah, really exciting.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Jennifer, did you want to go through the dropout remediation report right now, or do you want to do that later?
We'll do it later.
Okay. Keep the flow going.
Yeah.
Good evening. I just want to start out and just commend the site principals. Tonight's always a great night for all of us to listen to to what the great things we're doing for our kids in each building. And when they start pulling up data, we're looking at all of our kids. We're looking at special education students and our EL population. And so, again, great job, and I'm glad I'm part of the team. It definitely is a great team. The board, thank you so much, because everything that we're doing tonight, without your support, we can't do it. And obviously with Mr. Eichelberger's leadership, this is a great place, but it's a great place because we've got great kids and we've got great adults that work here. So, and welcome Miss Lloyd. She's part of the team. I don't know if anybody mentioned that this evening, and she is excited to be here. We're glad that she's with us. We're just going to go through special services, professional development, things that you've seen throughout the evening. Real quick, with Bethany Children's Health Center students, as you know, last year they changed the name. It used to be Bethany Children's. This is a couple slides you've seen throughout tonight about relationships. And we have such a powerful relationship that we will continue to cultivate with the hospital. They are our kids, and those numbers, we're at about 77 in the facility. That means 77 that are on our roll, that we're providing educational services, but that doesn't mean all of the students and children that are in that facility. There are some students that are there for palliative care and others that have not enrolled with us. But tonight you're going to see a contract with the hospital, and so that's the number that we're at. Updates in regards to COVID and flu and all those things. We're still to the point where we are not transporting any of those students on our site yet. We are hopeful and prayerful that that will happen here soon because we miss having those students with us. So I will keep you up to date on how that kind of progresses. EL program, as you've kind of heard throughout the evening, especially at the high school, we've had some of our EL population has increased a little bit. I want to commend all of the adults that are within that program. Ms. Brenniger, we've got Ms. Hall that's new to the program, working with our secondary students. Alma Espinoza's a paraprofessional that works within the program, and they do a tremendous job. Specifically, Ms. Brenniger has been working on and just completed an LIEP, which goes into our consolidated applications through all of our federal programs. And that LIEP, Language Instruction Educational Program. And it is in depth, and she's extremely thorough, going through what that program looks like from pre-K through 12th grade for all of our students within the EL program. And so I definitely want to commend her on all of her work that she's doing within the program. Federal programs and budgets, we have the vast majority of all those budgets have been approved. We've got one that's still out there that I need to make a few revisions on, but everything has been approved, everything looks good, so we're kind of moving forward with that. Professional development, as you've heard throughout this evening, we've been extremely fortunate now that the world is opening up and we're able to send people off campus, go to great professional development opportunities. Secondary, we had a number of team members that were able to go to the PLC conference. We continue with TBRI throughout the district. I also put this here just currently. This is actually tied into one of the goals that I'll talk about here in a few minutes. But we were very fortunate to hire Miss Williams as a behavior specialist last year. And she, as you have seen, she creates a newsletter that she sends out on a consistent basis for the entire district, that all of the adults will receive that. And so that is, to me, that's another powerful piece of PD, that you don't have to go off site. When we talk about students and what are we going to do with them, our job is to cause learning for all of our students. And we want them to be prepared and equipped with the strategies and skills to be successful when they leave our environment, right? So that's second grade to third grade. Are they prepared? When they go from middle school to high school, are they prepared? When they graduate, ultimately that's what we want to do with students. We want them to graduate, right? And as you saw through the high school's report, all of our students graduated last year. They were here, we graduated. And that's ultimately the goal that we have. But we also want them to have the skills to self-regulate when they get into a dysregulated state. When the next global pandemic rolls in, are we equipped with strategies to get through that? And so having Ms. Williams send out these reminders and strategies that the adults can use within their classrooms, I think is definitely a powerful opportunity for us. We've been talking about relationships all night and all the great relationships and different activities that we have seen at all of our sites. I put this up, the slide, I don't have enough room to put all of the stakeholders and our community members that help us with the mission, right? And so as you look here, Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast, I'm going to have a number of tickets. If anybody needs any tickets here a little bit later, that's coming up in December. You know how powerful our relationship is with them. SNU, obviously, Southwestern Christian University, Bethany Public Schools. We had the great impact auction just last week. And then obviously with Canadian Valley Technical Center. But then you talk about the police department and the fire department and the library and all these different entities that they're with us. They're with us. We can call them and we can ask them to come on site and help us out, and they're all extremely supportive. So it's exciting to have all of these stakeholders with us to help us again with the mission. Some success stories. I spoke with Ms. Williams, our behavior specialist, and also Ms. Carpenter, one of our new special education teachers within the district. And we had an opportunity to send a number of our students to, just recently, to the Special Olympics. And so just, having conversations with those students when they got back and how excited they were and they had success, but the success really was just having the opportunity to go. As you know, for the last couple of years, we haven't been able to leave site. And so it definitely was great for them and very appreciative of the teachers and the adults that put that together and took them off site. Some SMART goals from last year. We talked about, again, providing appropriate social and emotional learning opportunities and support for our students. How were we going to do that? Successfully, we were able to hire a full-time behavior specialist with Ms. Williams. And then obviously we had Mrs. Marchino and Ms. Graham that we were able to hire on as additional counselors within the district to provide that SEL and support for our students. And then it's a 3-year cycle, civil rights data collection. We were successfully able to get that taken care of and submitted on time, so we completed that. This year, another 3-year cycle that I am extremely grateful for Miss Lloyd and Ms. Fuller, and we're pulling data and trying to get this situated, but this is another big monitoring review that we do every 3 years that we're working on. And the last goal is, again, tied into what we have done, but how we can continue to do that. Because what I mentioned earlier is that, yes, we want, and it's extremely important, that all of our students have those skills, that the Oklahoma academic standards, that they are progressing and that they're on grade level, and all those things are extremely important. But I would say that we can't forget, we want kids to be successful also, to have the skills so they can self-regulate. When things go awry, when they're 23, they lose their job, whatever, life happens, right? It happens to all of us, but do they have the skills to cope with those things? So we will continue to do that, to equip them with the skills to self-regulate in stressful and volatile situations, like the next global pandemic. You never know when it's coming. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item 7, discussion possible action to approve or not approve the resolution for election for 2023.
So this is just the standard election each
Every
year.
year, yep.
Great opportunity for the
We get an
community to get
opportunity to pay
involved.
for another election.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Great opportunity.
another
We have some takers.
opportunity.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Wellstad,
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. 8, discussion possible action to approve or not approve the Bethany Children's Health Center agreement for fiscal year 23.
same as last year, 60-40 split. It's a great thing for both of us. 50-50 split in the summertime when we do summer stuff. But it's great. As Dr. Clinton said, it is a great relationship we have with the Children's Center.
We just don't have any timetable when we can have some
Yeah,
of
I
them
was
back,
curious
to
about that.
integrate them back in. No.
I just spoke with all of our facilitators this afternoon, and we really don't have a timeline. Even prior to COVID, they would ask us for our flu numbers, you know, and stomach bug and different things, and so if
Yeah.
it got to a certain point, they wouldn't send them over even prior to COVID. So, again, we're prayerful that it will happen, and we know that it will. We just don't know exactly when that's going to happen.
One partnership we've had with them in the past was the Children's Center Bowl. Did we have that this
Oh,
year?
right.
As
We
one of
have
our
not.
football
We have
games?
not.
That's
We
right.
have not. And actually having some conversations with Ms. Turnius and Ms. Walters, prior to COVID, there were some early conversations about maybe changing that from the football schedule to maybe a basketball schedule. But then COVID
Yeah.
occurred, and we haven't really had an opportunity to revisit that. But we will, because that was a great event, and we
Yeah.
definitely want to do something in some capacity. And so I will, when I get more information, I'll let you know.
That's perfect, thank you.
Basketball would be good.
Yeah, motion to approve item 8.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 9, discussion of possible action to approve or not approve the first priority of America Club for high school students.
Move approval of item 9?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 10, presentation and discussion of the college remediation and dropout reports.
Did you guys, do you see that? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's in your report, so, you know, like Dr. Flynn stated, we started out with a cohort of 122 seniors last year, and we graduated all of them. So that's a great thing. And if you look at that second page, remember this data, we do this every year, and it's kind of strange because it's 2 years old. It takes a lag. So this is 2020 Bethany graduates that attended public schools in the state of Oklahoma. So it wouldn't even include SNU, it wouldn't include Southwestern Christian, it wouldn't include any students that went out of state, just public universities in the state of Oklahoma. And if you look, really, we had 8 students out of 53 that required some sort of math remediation within their freshman year. And if you look at reading, we had 3 students of that 53 that required some sort of reading remediation.
And so that 53 is just public schools that they went to?
Public schools in Oklahoma, yes.
Any questions for Mark?
And the grand total, that's the whole state, right? Is that what that is?
The grand total, yes, that's
Okay.
statewide. That's the, everyone else, that's statewide.
How many kids, do you know off the top of your head how many kids graduate from Oklahoma high schools in a year?
All total?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know that number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder how many go to college?
Yes, it'd be interesting to know how many go. Thank you.
Well, I think for 2020, you could add both those numbers up. Well, these are college bound though, so it wouldn't, no.
Yes.
Public schools.
Well, and it's only
Public schools.
Yeah.
public
Those are
ed,
public
so
schools.
that doesn't
Right.
have a lot of other schools.
How many
That's fine.
kids were in that, I was just curious, 53, how many were in that class, do you remember?
That was Jordan and Devin's class.
Probably guess at least 120.
My daughter's class.
120 and 130,
Mm-hmm.
one of those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Motion. 10.
There's
There's
it's
no
not an
motion,
action
it's
item.
Oh, there's no motion on that?
Nope.
Oh, it's, yeah, it's just presentation. 11, discussion of possible action to approve or not approve the following out-of-state, out-of-town overnight trips as submitted with expenses to be paid from the corresponding activity fund. A, robotics to attend the following competitions. 1, Green Country Regionals on April 15th to the 8th, 23 in Tulsa. 2, First National Championship on April 19th through the 22nd of 23 in Houston, Texas. B, high school cross country to travel to Red River, New Mexico for team bonding on May 30th through June 1st of 2023. C, track and field to attend the 4A state track championship from May 4th through 6th, 2023 in Ardmore, Oklahoma. And D, track and field coaching staff to attend the Texas Coaches Association clinic on January 6th through 7th, 23 in Grapevine, Texas.
I would just make the comment, I know we have new coaches, we have new sponsors. Anytime we're going out of town, making sure that we do have the appropriate ratios of adults to kids and things like that. It's just important, I think, that we make note of that with new people that we have in our district.
Move approval item 11.
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Item 12, discussion and possible action to approve or not approve the soccer program participating in the Sports House Development High School Futsal League from December of 22 to February of 23 with fees to be paid from the soccer activity funds.
Motion to approve item number 12?
Second?
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Anybody executive? No.
Motion to approve then.
Yeah, motion to
Yeah,
approve.
motion to approve item 13, A through
I
J.
don't know that I want to approve Tina Spear.
I know,
Yeah.
I don't like them all.
Or Carolyn.
Yeah, or
Exactly.
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Resigning.
Yes.
I mean, Tina
Miss
states on
Tina.
here, if you'll have me back, she'll come back. I hope so, whatever.
Oh,
They'll
goodness.
both be back at
Yes.
some point.
I'm sorry I interrupted your motion.
It's quite all right.
Angela.
Did you finish it?
Yes.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes. Any new business?
No new business.
15, informational items.
Just Thanksgiving break is the 21st through the 25th, full week. We're looking forward to it.
Board member comments?
I do want to welcome Gretchen. And a belated happy birthday to our superintendent. I got you a Swedish fish.
Thank you.
You're welcome, yeah.
I want to give a shout out or kudos to the Bethany Public School Foundation Board. They just did their impact auction. It was the best that I've ever been to, and I don't remember how long I've been on that foundation, but I think also, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think we raised the most money we ever have at the impact auction as well. So
How much was that?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, Chip.
I think it's
I
in the
heard-
50s.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, it
Awesome.
was? I knew it
That's
was
great.
like 40-something is
That's
what I
great.
thought, but 50s
So-
is fantastic.
Yeah, so kudos to everyone that was involved in it, and Kirsten for leading the board.
Absolutely.
It's very good.
Thanks for serving on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Superintendent?
I want to thank the principals and Dr. Flinton for their school improvement presentations. The real work is done every day by this talented team of administrators, teachers, and staff members to make Bethany Public Schools the great school district that it is. Board members, we could not do this without you. Your support to our families and our administrators and teachers is that's how we get to do the things we do. So we appreciate all of you for that. Few who have not served on the school board know how much time it takes, how much time and energy it takes for you. You know, you have to read through this whole packet of stuff in just a couple of days and then come here and vote on it. So I want to publicly recognize you five for your work and your willingness to do this. We don't often thank you, but this evening I say thank you. Bethany School is a great place to work for many reasons. Great kids, great staff, great board, but we should never forget the incredible community support that we enjoy in Bethany. Parents, grandparents, guardians, aunts, uncles, and alumni, we owe our community a debt of gratitude for their relentless support. Thanks to you all. Help us continue to make this district great. And that concludes my report.
We are adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Not based on that one.